Before we get going, I do have to have a couple of disclaimers, and we're going to cover a lot of content and material. I'm going to try and be concise and succinct, but there's a lot of content. The slides will be available for you after. Couple things. This presentation is publicly available for viewing and educational purposes. However, all rights to the content within this presentation are preserved and remain the property of their respective owners, and ITIL is a registered trademark of Axelos Limited, all rights reserved. All right, now that that's out of the way, a little bit about me. I'm a proud dog dad, don't have any actual kids, so those are my kids. I married the love of my life, Kaylee, in 2018. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. I live and work in Irving, Texas, so I took a couple wrong exits to get here. I'm a foodie and I call myself a steakhouse enthusiast. So anywhere I go, I'm always looking for the best cut anywhere in that region. So we're going to Kelly's tonight, and so we'll see how that goes. And then I speak my mind. I like to tell people that if you ask me how my day is going, I'm actually going to tell you. So if you don't want an answer to your question, just don't ask me. I'm an Ohio State University football fan, so hopefully they don't take down my presentation. We're going to beat Penn State this year like we normally do, and that's really all I'm going to say about that. Why should you listen to me? What are my credentials? Why am I here? My profession is an IT engineer. I work for an organization called PDS Health. I also do independent IT consulting on digital strategy and device management for Devout Consulting. I have experience in both the healthcare and the education arenas. I'm an ITIL certified strategic leader, which means I've completed the coursework and exams for that. I've worked on multiple MDM solution migrations, one from Jamf to Mosel, and another Workspace ONE to Jamf. I'm an Apple subject matter expert for my organization. I have multiple platforms of systems administration experience, and like I just said, I've overseen and participated in multiple MDM migrations. Our agenda today, we've already gone through the introduction. We're going to go through a few key concepts that you need to know before we dive into the actual material. We're going to talk about digital strategy, device management strategy, go through a couple of real-world scenario solutions. We're going to do a quiz and review, and then we'll do a question and answer. The central principle of my presentation today is when a device management solution is chosen that aligns with an organization's digital strategy, technology administrators and IT decision makers can increase their value, shrink expenses, and enhance outcomes. The grids up above show you that when your digital strategy and device management strategy are equally aligned, you're not going to have that tug and pull where different pieces of your organization are going in different directions. Our key concepts. What is value? Value is the perceived benefits, usefulness, and importance of something. It is driven by three aspects: outcomes, costs, and risks. I'd like to encourage you to think of value as a lens through which you look through at the aspects of your day-to-day. Is what I'm doing right now bringing value? Is this meeting bringing value to my organization? I have 5 projects I'm working on. Which one should I prioritize? Which one is going to be most valuable to my organization if I finish it first? Outcomes, to understand outcomes, we have to understand outputs. I know this is a little technical, but this is how ITIL teaches this material, so I want to be very clear. Output is a tangible or intangible of an activity. An outcome is a result for a stakeholder by one or more outputs. So essentially an activity would result in an output, and the outcome would be what drives value. And then we have costs. There's 2 types of costs: qualitative costs and quantitative costs, and we're going to go over those later, don't worry. Quantitative costs are tangible. Those are going to be things like numerical values or anything that can be represented as a statistic. The other type of cost, qualitative, are things like employee morale, customer satisfaction, things that are harder for you to quantify. And then we have risks. Risks are going to be subjective to any organization. They could be regulatory compliance, data loss prevention, or additional labor costs that outweigh your actual cost savings. Excuse me. Holistic thinking. What is holistic thinking? Holistic thinking is an approach that considers the entire system and its interconnections rather than just individual parts. to understand how they interact and influence each other. It emphasizes seeing the big picture as a whole and recognizing that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. A small example of this could be something as tiny as what brand of keyboard you order for an organization. If everybody in your organization is working on a Mac or a MacBook and they have docking stations, right, and they have their dual monitors, you're probably not going to want to buy a Logitech Windows keyboard for those people to use. They're all used to using Mac. It's going to hurt their efficiency to have a Windows key and some just abnormal things on their keyboard. You are literally losing value. A large example would be something bigger, like how a new security control could impact your production workflows. It can be really easy for us as engineers and decision makers to miss the impact of our decisions on the whole of an organization and look at them through a very narrow scope. Strategy. What is strategy? A broad approach or course of action defined by an organization for achieving its objectives. Many large organizations have entire teams devoted to organizational strategy. Our organization actually has a chief strategy officer. Strategy is important because it helps us determine where we're going. Without that, it can be very difficult to do business in a healthy manner. All right, so the first, before we can talk about device management strategy, we have to talk about digital strategy so that we can align the two. What is digital strategy? Digital strategy is the process of aligning IT services with business objectives and leveraging digital technologies to support organizational goals. There are multiple components of digital strategy. There are weeks-long courses on this topic, so I condensed it down into 5 that I feel are the most important. Those are alignment with business goals, having a digital strategy that's customer-centric, an agile digital strategy, a digital strategy that contains the integrations of IT services, and continual improvement. Like I said, it's not all-encompassing, but these are the key components. One of the ones I do want to call out is customer-centric. People want to be reached how they want to be reached. So customer-centric would be something like, if you're determining how you're going to deliver your product, everybody has a smartphone. Your product should be available digitally on a smartphone. People are going to want to access your content, your product, how they want to access it. And when you meet them there, it's going to increase the value of your product. A digital strategy needs to focus more on creating policies, priorities, and people. The reason you're investing in the digital innovation is because it starts with people, which is why the best digital plans are a healthy blend of empathy for the customer paired with technical innovation and expertise. This is the continual improvement model. This is something that I use pretty regularly when I'm trying to make decisions at work. The first step of the continual improvement model is, what is the vision? What is my organization trying to achieve? Or what is my department or my piece of the organization trying to achieve? The improvement should support the organization's goals and objectives at all times. Second question you would ask yourself is, where are we now? You can't figure out where you're going if you don't know where you are right now. You can't improve upon something if you don't know what it is that you're going to improve upon. So it's really important that you understand, where are we now? And then, where do you want to be? This step helps you visualize the improvement timeline. Here you would set your key performance indicators and the objectives of your improvement initiative. The next question would be, how do we get there? This helps you plan. How are you going to achieve where you want to be? 5, take action. Execute the plan that you created in the 4th step, and use the measurements you created in where do we want to be to determine if you got there, which will be our next question. Did we get there? Check and confirm progress and value has been achieved by the improvement initiative. If you didn't achieve the desired result, additional actions may need to be taken. And then, how do we keep the momentum going? If the initiative was a success, use it to build support for your next improvement initiative. If you release a product or service in your organization and it goes really well, you're going to have buy-in for the next product or product or service that you release in your organization, because people are going to trust that you do it well. For the leaders in the room, This is how you create and foster a culture of continual improvement. There's multiple pieces to this. The first one would be to encourage your stakeholders to suggest and support improvements. Give them a voice. Make it safe for them to come to you and make suggestions. Second, encourage your stakeholders in your organization to take risks. Without risks, it can be very difficult to achieve value and enhance your organization. Recognize that perfectionism is typically self-defeating and blocks timely improvements. Kind of like when I was preparing for this talk. I had to keep reminding myself, perfectionism is not the goal. Celebrate success. Make sure that you are celebrating the success of your improvement initiatives with the people in your organization. You want to encourage fast feedback loops where you can receive feedback from the people impacted and the stakeholders impacted by your changes in a way that is efficient and helpful. Promote learning from failures rather than a blame culture. I know I struggle with this one quite often. We have a really large healthcare organization, and it can be really easy for me to blame another team or department for something that has gone wrong. That is not helpful in developing a culture of continual improvement. And then promote value and psychological safety of your employees. If you don't take care of your employees, they're not going to want to improve on the things that already exist. This is an example of strategic planning and cascading objectives. Strategic planning is an important part of aligning your business goals in a digital strategy. Your objectives must cascade from the parent organization down to the different organizations beneath it. So in this model, I chose to make a fake company called Big Tech Salsa. And Big Tech Salsa wants to become the largest provider of salsa in the state of Texas by the year 2030. The service org that is servicing Big Tech Salsa in this example is the IT department, the service organization. Their purpose is to create new and advance existing technologies to accelerate production while supporting the overall needs of the organization. And underneath the IT department is the service org indicator. This is going to be something like a key performance indicator. So in this instance, a performance indicator of whether the IT department got there would be, through new technology, increase the production of salsa by 3 times within 5 years. And then the department purpose for the support ops draws its purpose from that indicator. In order to support the service org indicator of, through new technology, increased production of salsa, the support ops department is to support the IT needs of the organization. As engineers, it can be very difficult for us to approach members of management. We can be socially introverted and just have different things that are obstacles to us from finding out how we can make a bigger impact in our organization. So if you don't know if your organization has a digital strategy, or if you're curious if you could create one, I would encourage you to identify if your company has a C-level or VP level executive who's responsible for strategy in your org. Or ask your CIO, your CTO, your CEO if an organization has digital strategy. Just don't quote me if you leapfrog your manager and they get mad at you. Device management strategy. First, we have to talk about what is device management. One of the reasons most people are even at this conference. Device management is the administrative process of deploying, configuring, securing, and maintaining an organization's computing devices, such as desktops, laptops, and mobile devices. Excuse me. One thing I want to call out here is the definition of a device has been fluid. We hear things like touch point, node, device, terminal, endpoint thrown around all as synonyms. This can be really confusing if you are a non-technical end user. So if you're trying to communicate a digital strategy to an executive or somebody that's not necessarily technical, you want to make sure that you limit the different terms that you're using. I usually try and stick to the word device because device can be all-encompassing and it doesn't necessarily box me into a corner with any of the things that I'm talking about. The impact of device management is extremely broad. Much like a digital strategy, it touches every piece of an organization, as demonstrated in the diagram there to my left. Device management strategy. What is device management strategy? Why are we here? What are we talking about? Device management strategy is a comprehensive plan that outlines how an organization will manage, secure, and maintain its devices in alignment with the organization's mission and vision. I would take note of the fact that digital strategy and the continual improvement model also derive from a mission and vision of the organization. So you're going to see a trend there as we try and align these things. There are 12 components of an effective device management strategy. Like I said, we're going to cover a lot of material. The slides will be available to you after, so just bear with me as I might breeze through some of this. The 12 components are security, monitoring, access control and identity management, risk management, asset management, lifecycle management, configuration, deployment, remote access and management, enrollment, support, and strategic analysis. Monitoring. Monitoring can be something like identifying, that will help you identify issues early and understand the usage of your devices. These are things like usage stats and device security information. One example of this would be how this feeds continual improvement. Without this data, it can be very difficult to know what you have to improve upon. This will really help you figure out where are we now. Again, the continual improvement model, we see up there, where are we now? That's what monitoring is going to help you determine. Security. Security is things like ensuring protection of sensitive information, industry-specific compliance. We have a lot of higher ed and K-12 in this conference. FERPA compliance. If you're in healthcare, you have HIPAA compliance. You may have GDPR compliance. You may have the California Privacy Act compliance. All of these different things are things that you need to take into account when you consider the security of your device management strategy. You also want to consider things like encryption and endpoint protection. If you don't have endpoint protection, I'm sure there's someone downstairs that would love to sell it to you. Context for this would be OS updates. Being able to reliably and consistently update Mac devices is a pain point that all of the technicians have had. If an item is left out of date, or if it is left out of your device management strategy, your organization could suffer significant losses. Access control and identity management. This includes things like authentication and authorization. For authentication, I like to consider calling it the method. How am I authenticating? Authorization would be the who. Should I have access to these materials, and how long should I have access to those materials? A good example or practical of this for digital strategy would be something like including a business case for privileged access management. Privileged access management on Mac OS is another pain point that Mac admins have had. Set yourself up for success when you build your digital strategy by including a business case for a PAM solution that shows the value it can bring to your organization. If you include this in your device management strategy, it will help you align with the security components of your digital strategy. Risk management, risk assessment, and incident response. Identifying, assessing, and mitigating risks associated with device management can protect an organization from threats. A contextual example of this for y'all would be something like evaluating the ability of a product to provide vulnerability information or compliance enforcement. If you work, like we talked about, in a regulated or highly attacked industry like healthcare, having these tools in a product already that you already own is going to save both time and money while keeping your organization secure, and it simplifies the business cases that you're going to be including as you build a device management strategy. Asset management. This is a huge cost bucket for most organizations. Asset management involves physical and virtual device inventory, software assets and inventory. This is something that AWS will talk a lot about if you ever do one of their trainings, is virtual device inventory and cost, and how we need to account for the software and virtual cost just as if they were physical assets. Maintaining up-to-date inventory of all their devices, status, and ownership is going to help you have a healthy device management strategy. One of the things I like to point out with this is licensing structures. Redundant functionalities across software in your stack, unused licenses, and underutilized software can be eliminated to provide you cost savings. So I would encourage you twice annually to review your device management strategy. We'll talk more about that later. And it will result in significant cost savings for most organizations. Lifecycle management. Lifecycle management involves procurement, maintenance, and retirement. Standardizing the process of acquiring new devices to ensure they meet organizational requirements. Maintenance, regularly updating and maintaining your devices to ensure performance. And retirement, securely decommissioning and disposing of devices to protect data and comply with regulations. An example of this, or something that I would like to encourage you to try, is document a lifecycle management proposal and get approval from the stakeholders in your organization. Ensure you account for future information and capacity planning as you develop that plan. But this is something that's going to help us when we have these, ad hoc departments that come and say, hey, I need all these new fancy computers, mine are old, and they're only 2 years old. Well, no, that's not part of our lifecycle management process. You're not budgeted for that until 2 years from now, so that's going to have to come out of a different cost bucket for your department. Configuration. Configuration is standardizing the device configurations to ensure consistency, security, and ease of management. This includes policy enforcement and standardization. Using standardized configurations will simplify management and simplify troubleshooting. Additionally, policy enforcement will ensure compliance with your organizational standards. An example of configuration and device management strategy aligning with the agility component of a digital strategy might look like having standardized configurations across the org so that you are not having to troubleshoot all these different ad hoc policies all at the same time to try and figure out what is actually wrong when there's an issue. Deployment. This is going to include both hardware deployment and software deployment. Efficiently deploying software and software to devices to ensure that they are ready to use and compliant with your organization's policies. Hardware deployment, software deployment, I'm not going to describe them, pretty self-explanatory. But this is a good place for us to see an example of holistic thinking. Set yourself up for post-deployment success. A lot of our workforce is remote. I like to tell people that have a remote workforce, assume that you will never see that device again until it is refreshed or until that person leaves your organization. As soon as it goes out the door, it needs to have everything you need to manage it already equipped on the device. You should also have a means of completing the refresh of that hardware and a plan to do so. Remote access and remote management. These are going to be things like remote access to the device, whether it be through screen sharing or another software. It enables IT teams to manage and support devices remotely to improve efficiency and reduce downtime. You don't want to be asking employees to have to come to an on-site office that's multiple hours away from their home during business hours just to receive troubleshooting support. That's going to take time out of their day, and you will lose value as an organization. Additionally, remote access can get expensive quickly. The best applications for remote access are not cheap. So if you can find an application or a management strategy, or a management solution that includes this as a feature, you're likely going to save cost rather than buying an additional software to also perform that function. Enrollment. Enrollment is simplifying the process of adding devices to the management system to ensure they're quickly configured and secured. This is done through things like self-service portals to provide enrollment options for your users after they've received the device, as well as automated enrollment with things like Apple Business Manager or Windows Autopilot. Support. You should have a robust support plan for your organization. This would be backed up by documentation as part of your device management strategy. Remember our cascading objectives example that we saw earlier. The support plan would be a crucial part of the service ops team meeting the SLAs, which is the KPI for the IT department. These cascading objectives, again, can help you visualize the impact each piece of an organization has on the other. Last but not least, in device management strategy is strategic analysis, and we're going to park here for a second. I'm going to take a drink while we do that, while you guys take a look at that. There are 4 quadrants to strategic analysis: capacity planning, maximizing value, ongoing cost-benefit analysis, and alignment with organizational goals. The ongoing cost-benefit analysis, as you can see above, is highlighted. That's because doing this is not something that most organizations are very good at. It involves taking time twice a year, is my recommendation, to really do a cost-benefit analysis of all of your device management strategy and maybe even your digital strategy to ensure that you're maximizing value and getting the most out of the things that you're spending your capital on. For capacity planning, that's going to be assessing the current and future device needs of an organization. If you have innovation being done in your organization or continual improvement happening, you need to be able to support those improvements once they've been created. If you don't have hardware or staff or other expenses that you may need to support the continual improvements and innovations that you're making, you're going to run into a problem when maybe you need more RAM for a PC to run an application that you've built or improved upon, and all of your PCs have less than the needed RAM because you didn't plan ahead. You also want to maximize value. We've talked about value a lot so far. Using the information from a qualitative and quantitative analysis, which again we will talk about, I promise, to make decisions that maximize value. Remember, qualitative is people cost, or sorry, is things like morale or customer satisfaction, where a quantitative cost would be a statistical, something that can be statistically represented, numerical, like an actual dollar amount or a number or percentage. And then lastly, we have alignment with organizational goals, which is kind of the purpose of this whole presentation as we looked at with the central principle. You want all of your different strategies, all of your different decisions to be in alignment so that you don't have conflict between what you're trying to achieve. This is going to assist you with making sure you have a healthy organization that is healthily collaborating and growing steadily. This is the definitions of qualitative and quantitative analysis. I hate these words. I'm terrible at enunciating. Like I said, a qualitative analysis is numerical. It's statistical. It's something that you can actually represent in numbers. The purpose of a quantitative analysis is to quantify the variables, hence quantitative, and generalize results from a sample amount to a full population. The data is numerical data with closed-ended questions. The approach is objective, it's measurable, hypothesis-driven. It seeks to test theories and determine relationships between the variables. An outcome of this would be statistical significance, metrics or percentages, and mathematical models. A qualitative analysis is non-numerical. It's descriptive. This is to understand the underlying reasons, opinions, or motivations. We see this often in an organization when they're trying to determine why a specific behavior might be happening. The purpose, I already said the purpose. Data is the textual or visual data, such as the interviews, focus groups, or observations and surveys that occur. Notice how on the qualitative analysis, your survey responses are open-ended, and on the quantitative analysis, they're going to be closed-ended. The approach for a qualitative analysis is subjective, interpretive, and exploratory, hence why it is harder to quantify. It seeks to provide insights and understanding of complex phenomena, like human behavior. The outcome of a qualitative analysis is the in-depth understanding of themes, patterns, and narratives. This slide is also available on the course resources page, I believe, as an individual graphic. Strategic analysis. So this is an example of the first strategic analysis I ever did. I didn't have any formal training. I did not have, I didn't really know what I was doing. All I knew is the device management solution that I was working with was not working, and we needed a different one. And so what I did was I went through and said, what are the important pieces for my organization when it comes to picking a device management solution? And those are the things that would qualify as value for my organization. And then I POC'd seven different solutions. As I POC'd, I rated those solutions on a scale of 0 to 3. If it could meet, exceed, does not meet, or meets the requirements, but there's some issues. We also put on here the estimated annual cost for all our devices, whether it was Android compatible, and whether macOS patching had been at verified functionality. One of the things I would encourage and a lot of the leaders in the room probably are aware of this, when someone comes in and does their dog and pony show to sell you a device management solution, verify what they're saying. Don't just buy it. A lot of times they're going to say they can do something, and they can do that thing, but it's only in a very specific situation. They may not be able to actually do that thing for you. And then once it was all said and done, I had product scores that I could present to my leadership based on the things that were important for our organization. You can see there over on the right, there were 2 products in this instance that exceeded requirements, which also allowed me to focus my efforts, drop the other POCs, and just continue with those 2 proof of concepts and determine which product would be better for the organization. Like I said, there was a QR code earlier on the title screen. This is that same QR code. It will take you to the industry-specific examples and scenarios that we're going to go through. If you read the course description, I did say we were going to go through the journey of 2 full fictional organizations. I changed that up. It doesn't automatically change in the session description when I change it on Sessionize, so I apologize. But instead of doing that, I made 2 case studies for us to engage with instead, and it can be an actual group engagement, so I'm not just reading you something. We're not going to dig super deep. Rather, I encourage you to do your own strategic analysis of these cases later. Take these resources and do it on your own and learn how to do this in an effective way. So the first case study we have was Cody's Clinics. You have our CEO, that's Cody, and our CTO, Skittles. Cody's Clinics lacks a clear digital strategy. It has no BYOD program in place. That's a bring your own device program for employee devices. It has a mixed bag of Windows and Apple devices across various locations. Staff members take visit notes on their phones, and then they type in the patient charts later. They have multiple payment processors with different fee structures, and they're paying for a Microsoft 365 E3 license for every employee. If you don't know what that means, essentially they're paying for something very expensive. They get the whole Office suite, they get the mobility license for Microsoft Intune, and they may not be using all of those things. So while you guys take that in, I'll read the initial introduction for the case study. Cody's Clinics has been serving patients across North Texas for 3 years. They have a steady flow of business and are looking to expand. In just 3 years, they have grown from a single location to 5 locations across Dallas-Fort Worth. By 2030, they want to be the leading general practice healthcare provider in the state of Texas. To do this, they will have to be opening new clinics in new markets. As they expand, the CTO of Cody's Clinics, Skittles, is looking to implement both a digital and a device management strategy that better aligns with the needs and vision of Cody's Clinics. Skittles has an extremely limited attention span, so she hired a qualified engineer to develop and implement strategies instead of doing it herself. We went over the key information already. I'm going to toss the catch box around, and hopefully some people are actually going to answer my questions. What are some of the easy wins that can be achieved? And just raise your hand, I'll throw this at you. Oh, geez, all the way in the back. Awesome.
Are we live? Okay, the first one that I see immediately is the multiple payment processors with different fee structures. I think that there's an opportunity to consolidate that into a single provider and have the existing locations all use that same provider.
And what would they gain by doing that?
They'd reduce the complexity, they'd reduce the time negotiating with multiple different processors.
Perfect. Yes, the cost, the fee structures are going to be different. The more terminals you have with the company, the cheaper your fees are probably going to be. Anyone else? Don't be afraid. All the way across again. All right, let's see. Awesome, good throw.
The note about staff take visit notes on their phones and type it in patient charts later. You got to put in a process where they only just go ahead and put it directly in the patient charts because they're doing the work twice.
Yep. Why else might that be important?
Also for security issues, because maybe you have the security app on the the digital thing that takes the patient charts, but not on their actual BYOD phone.
Yep, compliance, HIPAA. We don't want patient data being released on personal devices. Perfect. Anyone else for this case study?
We could look at what actually they need from Microsoft and maybe change the licensing for each of the users and keep the E3 for specific people that actually need it.
Yeah, do a review of the licensing structure like we talked about before, and make sure that you're actually appropriating the correct amount of access to the right people and save money in the process. Anyone else? Going once? Twice? All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Give yourselves a hand. All right. The next one is the Ilvermorny Public School District. This time I'm going to read the description first, like I had planned to do with the last one before I got ahead of myself. Ilvermorny Public Schools serves students from all around Mount Greylock in Massachusetts. The school district issues a MacBook Air to every teacher and an iPad to every student to use during their studies, totaling around 3,000 devices across their campuses. The school district entered a 4-year contract with a small device management provider when they purchased the initial device fleet. That contract ends at the end of 2024. The current device management solution has an issue with OS upgrades, where IT support is unable to upgrade macOS devices without making their users local administrators. This has become a security issue and led to installation of multiple malicious softwares by end users, which took extensive amounts of time to remediate. Additionally, any remote actions take over 10 minutes to process, which is impacting the capacity of the support team. The superintendent has directed the IT department to move to another device management product, refresh devices that will become incompatible with iOS and macOS 18, and will be the primary approver of any expenses and proposals. He's also made it clear that money is tight and funding is finite. There is no flexibility on cost. The IT department hired a consultant to review their existing device management strategy and advise on the best path forward. We have 6 points up there about the Ilvermorny Public School District. Their current device fleet has 500 MacBooks. 200 are incompatible with macOS 18. They have 2,500 iPads. 1,500 of those are incompatible with iOS 18. The school district anticipates that they will double in student and teacher population by 2030. Tracking and disabling stolen, lost, and missing iPads has been an issue. The school district uses Okta as their IDP, and students and teachers utilize Google Workspace as their primary application suite. And we're going to do the same thing here with the catch box. What are some good questions this consultant should be asking the stakeholders in the organization to get started? All the way back again. All right. Awesome.
Excellent throw. You're 2 for 2. I would say the number one question I'd ask is, why are you using Apple equipment? Tell me what advantages Apple equipment provides to you that other companies can't provide. And given that you're using Google Workspace, have you evaluated Chromebooks or Chromebook compatible equipment And why did you not choose to go with them?
Right. Why are you directing us to use Apple devices when our primary applications are on Google? Perfect. Anyone else? No? How about which stakeholder should be engaged first? I know you all have thoughts. If you don't want to be recorded, we just won't throw the box to you. It's okay.
I'd start with the finance group
Okay.
and find out specifically how tight are their budgets and what do the projections look like? What do the tax structures, I presume they're funded by property taxes. What do those projections look like?
Yeah, how much money do we have? We
Yeah,
know that
not
we
only
have
now, but in the near future.
well, and we have a specific, we know we're going to have a specific amount, right? So we need to know what that amount is and whether or not it's going to grow.
I would engage.
Throw the box.
I'll try.
All right.
I would probably start with the IT folks first.
Okay,
to
why's that?
Figure out the requirements before we even figure out what money we have. And then, because based on what the requirements are, then we can start building solutions to fit, you know, well, I guess it won't matter either way, but.
There's no right answer, right?
Yeah.
There's multiple ways you can approach something like this. That's why it's a collaborative. I want to hear your ideas. I want you to really be critically thinking and what would work for your organization. Like you're saying the IT department. What works well for your organization might not work well for an organization that first needs to talk to the finance department, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, and I guess they both need to be consulted in this case because you have to figure out exactly what's necessary and what needs that they have to tackle it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? What about, based on the information provided, what criterion might carry the most weight when they select a new device management strategy or solution? Sorry, solution, not strategy. Over here?
Since they said they didn't have any money, I think that would be cost. And that kind of would go back to what he said in the back, like why are they using Macs? Because you're using the most expensive equipment and you probably don't need it. And then also, they're losing the equipment. So again, that's going back into waste.
Yeah, so cost. If cost is going to be, cost was called out as a specific limitation by the person making the ultimate approval decisions, that's something that needs to be considered and is going to carry a lot of weight when you come to them and say, this is what we should do. Anyone else? No right or wrong answers here. No? All right, I'll take the catch box back. All right. I don't know if word got around to you or not, but I'm going to give away a pair of AirPods. But first, you have to show me that you are actually listening. Up on the screen, there's going to be a QR code that you'll need to scan to access the room. Go ahead and do that for me. I would ask that you put your actual first name so I can give the AirPods to the right person. Please. All right, is everybody in? Got one more. All right, raise your hand if you're not in. All right. It's just spinning. We knew that might be the case. You tried over cellular data? Okay. Well, she's still working on it. We got one more. That's right, I'm way ahead on my time, so. I'm not sure that's really fair, but. Good? Awesome. All right, each question has a timer on it. There's between 20 and 30 seconds on each question, depending on what I thought it would take as far as reading the question. Once everyone's answered, the question will automatically cut off. On which piece of an organization does device management not have any impact? Accounting, marketing, human resources, or none of these? Excuse me. All right, we had one for marketing, everyone else with none of these. None of these was the correct answer. And then it's going to show a leaderboard. The less time it takes you to answer the question, the higher you'll be on the leaderboard. What is the correct definition of digital strategy? The process of aligning IT services with business objectives and leveraging digital technologies to support organizational goals. A plan to achieve long-term goals and competitive advantage by analyzing market conditions, daily activities and processes to deliver IT support services, or a structured approach to planning, executing, and overseeing a project to achieve specific goals. All right, a little bit more of a big mixed bag on this one. Number one was the correct answer. The process of aligning IT services with business objectives and leveraging digital technologies to support organizational goals. What fantasy novel series is Ilvermorny from? Twilight, Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia, Harry Potter. Really mixed bag on this one. Okay. It was Harry Potter. It was one of the schools, the additional schools of witchcraft and wizardry. All right, we've got a tie at the top. I don't know how this handles ties, so hopefully that doesn't happen. I may have to owe someone. Which of the following is not a piece of the security component of a device management strategy? Industry-specific compliance, encryption, network firewall, or endpoint protection? All right, 50-50. Network firewall was the correct answer. All right, we have one person that's 4 for 4. Which of the following is not a core component of an effective device management strategy? Risk management, enrollment, strategic analysis, application management. Keyword there is core component. We went over the core components. All right, mixed bag here. Correct answer was application management. Sure, application management could be a piece of your device management strategy for sure, but it wasn't one of the core components. It would be under one of them. All right, somebody's on a roll. The leaders of an organization want to encourage behaviors that build and foster a culture of continual improvement. Which behavior should not be encouraged by the leaders? Perfectionism, encouraging feedback, taking risks, or celebrating success? All right. We had one person taking risks, and the risk did not pay off. Perfectionism is the correct answer. Who has the greatest football program in the Big Ten? Remember who's looking for the correct answer here. Please. How bad do you want these AirPods? Yes, this is me manipulating and exercising my power right now. 100%. And one person wanted to smite me, and that is acceptable. I was wondering. Which is the best example of holistic thinking? An analyst in accounting checks with a colleague to ensure payroll is completed on time. A project manager maps out how their project impacts each part of their company's departments. The CEO requests status updates from a project manager who does not report to him directly. A help desk agent asks the user how they felt their level of service was. Okay, most people said a project manager maps out how their project impacts each part of their company's departments, and that was the correct answer. It means I did a good job. Gaining ground. Which of the following is not a component of digital strategy? Limited scope, continual improvement, agile, customer-centric. I know this was a long time ago. There's a lot of material in there. I think this was like the 4th slide. All right, some said agile, some said limited scope. Correct answer was limited scope. 9 for 9. Wow. Who's P-Lock? Seriously?
I did say somebody in there joined.
All right. Wow. It's the guy in the booth. Okay. I need somebody down here to step up, please. What is the recommended frequency for a formal cost-benefit analysis of your existing solutions? Annually, twice a year, monthly, or only when leadership asks? Oh, mixed bag on this one. Answer's twice a year. I don't know if he does. I'm trying to figure out if he can. Can you see my slides? Yes or no? Oh, he's cheating. Okay. Okay. So he's not actually winning, guys. I'm just letting you know. You can't cheat, bro. Which one of the following questions is not part of the continual improvement model? Where are we now? Where do we want to be? How do we get there? Who is the stakeholder? Stake with a AK, not E-key, E-A key. That would be me tonight. Awesome, yes. Who is the stakeholder? Was not on the continual improvement model. Which best describes a qualitative analysis? Numerical data that can be objectively measured and assigned monetary values, or subjective data, people factors that aren't easily assigned numerical values? All right, with 2 questions left. All right, most people said subjective data, and that would be correct. All right, there's 2 more questions. Right now, Akeem, not P-Lock, is in first place. Which of the following is not a specific driver of defining value? Risks, outcomes, costs, capacity.
That was funny. They shouldn't have said anything until the end.
I still can't get over that. Capacity, correct. That was on the slide at the very beginning where we talked about value. All right, Akeem's still in the lead. It's a 10-second deficit on this last question. Okay, let's see how it goes. Which of the following is part of creating a culture of continual improvement? Encourage stakeholders to suggest and support improvements. Encourage feedback loops. Promote learning from failures, or all of the above. I'm waiting for him to turn it off since I'm not giving him the AirPods at the end here. All of the above was the correct answer. And it didn't give me the title slide. I will try and figure out how to show it to you guys. Hang on a second. Working on it. Sorry. This is what happens when you try and do interactive stuff in your presentation. Are you guys able to see the results? Well, it's appropriate. We're waiting in suspense, right?
Yeah, for the last question, it's not allowing us to answer.
Well, they already did. It says 100% said all of the above.
No, the 15th question. This was the 14th. We're seeing the last question now, but there are no answers.
It hasn't moved to the next, to the end. There it goes.
Did it go?
Yeah, it's there now.
Okay. And then, okay, so I'm controlling this somewhere else? This is fun. How do I advance? All right, I'll figure that out at the end. Before we finish, there is a feedback form that they want you to complete on Sketch. Please be nice. There's also a contact card up there. If you scan that QR code, it will have all my contact information. You'll be able to save it into your phone. Is there any questions besides who won? I'll figure that out in a second.
Looked like a key.
Yeah, I think so, but I don't want to. Why is Ohio State superior? Because I said so. Somebody submitted the question on the Slido. They don't want me throwing them the catch box. All right, well, that's all I have. Let me try and figure out if you guys want to cut the recording so it's not showing my screen, please. And let me know when it's done, because I don't know where all I'm going to have to go to figure out how to do this. Good?
You can probably unplug it too.
All right.
Yeah, we did see the results on the phone.
Oh, he did? Are we all in consensus? All right.
Clarify, you want that screen to be blanked, or you don't want your Q&A up there?
We're good. We're good.
Okay.
All right. Akeem, come grab your AirPods. You filming me? Oh, he wants a picture. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I know that was a lot of material. I hope that it was educational for you. Again, the slides are up on the Penn State Mac Admin's website, hopefully. I guess they are because it was cheating. So thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
I have a question.
Oh. Whoop. I know.
Do you have any, is this on?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Do you have any advice for anybody who works for an organization that is stuck in very old ways where they may not want to go through anything like this? Specifically, like, I deal with a lot of organizations that are like, oh, we have a Microsoft contract, we're only working with Microsoft, we're not even gonna bother looking into any other tools.
Yeah. So my answer to that would be, how much money are you losing first? Because if a leadership in an organization as a collective is resistant to change, even if that change is going to save them money, which most organizations care about their bottom line and how much money they're able to make because it directly impacts them, then I would go work somewhere else because my organization doesn't want to succeed. But typically, if you're able to demonstrate value, especially quantifiable dollar amounts, you will be able to convince them that this is a good idea because they really can't say no if something is that quantifiable. It doesn't make it false just because they say it's false, as much as they may want to believe that.
Also, do they have the infrastructure to do what the new suggestion would be?
I'm going to throw you the box here.
The question would be also, would that organization have the infrastructure and the personnel to handle the suggested strategy?
So that would be the capacity planning piece, right? Making sure that you have the necessary pieces in place so that you can implement your device management strategy or your digital strategy.
And also, why are they stuck in their old ways? I mean, do they have a high stake in that environment? Do they own it? Is it, some family things going on? Something that's
Right.
causing them not to want to advance.
Correct.
Yeah, usually, yeah, typically what I'm seeing.
Throw them the box.
Yeah, so typically what I see as a consulting engineer, sales engineer, typically what I happen to see is organizations that are so ingrained. We sent employees to training. We spent thousands of dollars over the course of 5 or 10 years on training. We don't want to go ahead and rip out a solution right away. However, usually when a change of leadership comes in that has some more positive thinking, that's usually when I see people make the shift. But quite often, and especially I'd say within the last 16 months, every day I do not have a day that goes by where someone's like, hey, we have a Microsoft license, we have Intune, we get it for free with our license. And it's like they don't even want to talk to you because of that. But then there's other little things like trainings and certifications. But to go back to your point about some of the infrastructure too, when you look at some of the more modern infrastructure, I'd say like 90% of it is hosted in the cloud. Especially when it comes to like device management solutions, there is a cloud option. You don't have to host that infrastructure on site, and there's even new features and functionalities that you may not need a connector or a virtual machine running some kind of connector to that cloud service. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Also, we always done it that way. Yep. That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah, that was something I've definitely run into with, well, we're already, the organization I work for, we use Jamf for our corporate-owned Apple devices and Intune for our BYOD program. But the reason I was able to acquire Jamf was because I was able to show the value of doing that versus putting everything in Microsoft Intune. Because value is not just financial. I was able to show how many support hours we would save. I was able to show security compliance. Could Intune reliably patch Mac OS at the time? The answer was no. It could sometimes, it would work sometimes, but it couldn't do it all the time. It wasn't able to run a tool that was able to do that at that time. Somebody asked how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Y'all are silly. And so that's why I think the definition of value is so important, because it's not just about the money. Now, if you can use the money first as the reason, you're going to have way more success than trying to use qualitative analysis and show, less statistical reasons of why this is going to be a good value for the organization or a good fit. The other thing I would call out is a lot of times people just grab a solution, but there's no strategy associated with the solution. If you develop a strategy using the components we talked about, you're going to actually be able to show value in a very clear and concise way, whereas if you take the stat page for a product, whether it be Jamf, Kanji, SODI, any of these MDM providers, if you just take the stat sheet, you're taking it at face value, you're not really able to get any teeth behind it and say, this is how it applies to us. So that was a really good call out. Any other questions? Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.